On the Late Show tonight, the return of heavy metal as the steel sculptures of Sir Anthony Caro go on show. And music from the margins with On-U Sounds. Good evening. Some of the most inventive music in the recent history of pop has come from the margins of the industry, the independent labels. And one of the most inventive of these has been On-U Sounds, in operation since the late 70s. Like the best of Motown or the pioneering reggae studios of 20 years ago, the records are based on the work of a core of session-type musicians who work quickly and to order, with results that are often greater than the sum of their parts. At the centre of the web is one of the legendary record producers of the last decade, Adrian Sherwood, the white man who rewrites the language of dub reggae from a terraced house in North London. Paul Tickell goes in search of the sound of On-U Sounds.
You could say it's like druggy music that you don't have to take drugs to appreciate. They've been experimenting with hybrids over the years. So they won't come up with something that's purely reggae, but it will have elements of reggae.
The beautiful thing with the reggae and a lot of the current dance stuff is it's got a lot of space in it, it's not too cluttered. I used to listen to records when I was at school that, you know, the mainstream stuff or things that my friends might have been listening to, and I just couldn't come to grips with it. As soon as I heard reggae, there was like loads of space in it. It was like bouncy and spongy, like a rubber room almost.
When you listen to a record on the radio, you listen to a happy little dance number, you always instinctively know what's going to happen next. And that's part of why you do enjoy it. But On-U Sound records subvert that by introducing other elements.
On-U Sound is more an umbrella organisation than a conventional record label. Although some of its artists have been with On-U since it started over a decade ago, others come and go at will and have contracts with other labels too. On-U's version of the star system is a collective one. Artists find themselves fronting their own projects on one album, but backing up someone else on another. An On-U live showcase means that everyone has to muck in.
Climb the ladder and kiss the sky. Jacob's feeling is the all-time high. Oh, it's classic, can you make my day? Jacob's feeling where you hey, oh,
Jesse Ray, we've got more. Pay it back. Pay it all back.
From the mighty On-U Sound in the area. Could have had it all. We could have had it all. The emotional hooligan. Another domestic drama in a suburban hell.
Gary Clayle, DJ with the On-U sound system, is proof that On-U, in spite of its anti-corporate and fiercely independent philosophy, can slot into the mainstream. His new single comes after chart success earlier this year with Human Nature,
Let the carnival begin. Every pleasure, every sin. Let the carnival begin.
The nerve centre of On-U Sound is in a house in Muswell Hill, North London. It serves as a warehouse and office. More recently, a recording studio was added. This is where Adrian Sherwood, producer of over 60 albums, lives and works.
One of the most significant things about looking at the career of Adrian Sherwood at this time is that we have the benefit of seeing what's happened in dance music. In a way, he acted as a forerunner for so much in terms of bringing the producer to the very front, the kind of engine room, creatively and in every other way. And this is exactly what we see and can accept now with the Paul Oakenfolds and Andy Weatherall dance producers, those big names that previously people wouldn't have paid any attention to.
He was sampling years before sampling became a fashionable thing. He was using the studio, basically using the studio as another instrument. A lot of On-U Sound stuff is played. There's actual human musical input, and then it gets electronically treated. That comes afterwards.
What more do you want? What do you want more for? Turning on the taps and wastefulness. Turning on the taps and wastefulness. We don't want no part of it.
Studying sound, studying music, you can go to a point where you learn too much and it almost puts handcuffs on you. You feel frightened of how it's going to sound in a club that's got like shag pile carpets. It won't stand out the speakers, it will get muffled. So you have to compress it to death and things like that. And sometimes it's better you ignore all those rules and just like completely terrorise the mixing desk and overload the tape, and a great result comes out.
He's here with it, you understand? We're in a lot of people is like on the top. Adrian is right under there with it. And then he floats the other stuff on top, which make it all sound beautiful.
A time ago, man was brought from the east. Their skin were black, living tribulation. A time ago, man was brought from the east. Their skin were black, living tribulation.
All the great producers of reggae music have always insisted on their trademark, and that people have always known or recognised a studio and a producer from its sound. Adrian Sherwood has a lot of those kind of traits that he continues with, like there may be sample crowd noises, or there may be sounds of running water, or the way that a bell sounds in an Adrian Sherwood. Irritating quality that a lot of those sounds have. Adrian Sherwood doesn't produce a sound in a way that sounds nice. He produces a sound in a way that makes you prick up your ears and notice it.
Lots of imagination, Adrian Scott. He was the first man I knew would capture a door slamming or glass shattering. He was one of the first people I knew to do that, and to, like, what became the scratching sound, rewinding. And Adrian would like have loads of tapes editing. He'd have about this much of a whole tape he wanted to edit onto another bit, and he'd be like that with lots and lots of edits until all the computers came in and made it a little bit easier for him. He was one of the first I know to do that.
Studio techniques using basic effects. You had probably in the 60s all the psychedelic stuff where they were shaking a phaser unit or something. But the Jamaicans, you know, people like Lee Perry took it many stages further. They'd have, you know, a phaser feeding into a reverb plate with mad feedback, you know, delay. And I love the old King Tubby's, you know, Lee Perry, Augustus Pablo, Keith Hudson, the sounds they were using and the ideas with parametrics, bending the sound during the mix. All you do is you take a very powerful equalizer, like a treble and bass control on a hi-fi, but a parametric or a graphic is that much more active. You can get into the trebles and get a kind of sweeping sound by bending it as like a hi-hat's playing or a guitar.
He does concentrate a lot on his drum and bass because that's where he's coming from, the sound system, the heavy dub. You know, Adrian kill you with that.
Generation after all this generation, from the mighty On-U Sound in the area. We could have had it all. We could have had it.
Basically, it's kind of taking dub music as it was started by Lee Perry and King Tubby in Jamaica, say in the early 60s, and kind of updating it, kind of modernizing it, kind of introducing a European element into it.
Piccadilly, in Times Square, Place de la Concorde.
On-U Sound had this series of records called Pay All Back.
Pay, pay, pay.
And where that term Pay All Back came from was from a William Burroughs speech.
Pay it all, pay it all, pay it all back.
He's the one who used language, piecing together bits of language so that they made new sense. And in a way, what Adrian Sherwood does with sound is like that.
Reggae isn't Sherwood's only inspiration. Recently, he's got more and more involved with American musicians from a funk and rap background, like bass player Doug Wimbish and his guitarist collaborator Skip MacDonald. As well as being members of the band Tackhead, they contribute to lots of On-U projects, including the Barmy Army.
Basically, you know, I go to football regularly, and I made the first record for a giggle, and I really got into it myself. We went around football grounds all over the country recording football chants and started researching a few little things, not in a deep way, but getting a plan before we went and did it, and basically bashed together probably about 15 football songs over the last 6 years or so. We all go to West Ham on the South Bank. I travel to a couple of away games, and we had like concealed microphones in the middle of the loudest singing element in the crowd.
Now then, this is the moment. This is the moment. Billy Bonds comes to the bottom of the steps. He's got 39 steps to walk up, and everyone is paved with gold for Billy Bonds. Bonds reaches the 33rd ninth step. He turns. The cup is now in the arms of Billy Bonds, and Billy Bonds lifts the cup, and the sun shines on the cup, and it's got claret and blue ribbons on it. The moving sea of claret and blue, which means West Ham. It means I'm forever blowing bubbles.
The record business that's geared to the more make me dance or the baby let me stick my tongue in your ear type music and all of that. It's been so much of that now that I think it's time that people actually did start putting more pointed things on record, takes an actual stand in what's actually happening around.
Some people have picked up on On-U Sound because it's a fashionable thing, and On-U Sound is actually much more fashionable than it's ever been. But there's more to it than that. They're saying things that need to be said, not necessarily political things, but, you know, just having a little think on record.
In Jamaica, we have a place called Bedford Hole, and then there's, at the end of the hill, there's a rock, and there's water coming out, and lots of people come and quench their thirst there, you know. Jamaica that, you know. There's a new sound for me. This is how I describe it, you know. It's like a well, and, you know, everyone just come and have a drink and bathe, because that's what I did as a youth, you know. We just go and bathe in this and give praises, you know. And that's what a new sound is. It's like a mother then, you know? And out of that mother comes sons and daughters, you know?
Now that we sit by this campsite firelight, not one word was spoken. We are who we are. We know what we're fighting for. One blackbird singing in the sun.
I think it's very important for On-U Sound to be on the margins. I think of the music industry and creatively, I think that's exactly where it wants to be, and that's what it thrives on. There's always this element of slightly unusual, deranged input that is at the very heart of what Adrian Sherwood is creating all the time with what he does. To bring him into the mainstream would mean removing all those elements, would mean that there was no place for the likes of Jessie Ray or Mark Stewart. There'd be no place for people who haven't, all these people who haven't found a place anywhere else. That, I see, is his great strength, and it's something that I'm sure he'll continue to work in the same way.
Paul Tickell and On-U Sounds. But from me, good night.